The Galaxy A05s is probably a better choice than the A14. Well, technically, because not in its entirety. Also, I'm precisely referencing the A14 4G. Now, the A05s joins the ranks of Samsung's budget devices in a category we like to classify as entry-level, but the standout feature that might make you want to compare it to the higher A14 is the Snapdragon 680 processor and higher refresh rate. So based on spec sheets, at first glance it looks like an interesting device, but does it really offer enough in terms of user experience, especially when compared to the competition? I've had this for about a week, and it's one of those Samsung devices you pick up with minimal expectations, but you are hopeful it's going to be worth getting. On appearance alone, it passes as one of the finest looking budget phones, as Samsung actually continues to establish their brand identity on all their devices. So whether you pick up a flagship or a low-end A series, you are getting the design anyone can identify from afar as a Samsung phone, and I can even mistake it for one of the flagships, at least until they turn to the display and then they see the notch. Now, alongside the A05s, Samsung actually announced the A05, which I actually already have here, and then there's the A15 and A25, which are not yet available in Nigeria, but I think it's already in Ghana. But the focus is on the A05s, of course, so let's put that aside. You can look out for the others when I get my hands on them. The Galaxy A05s comes in 4 colors, or 3 depending on your region. I went for the violet as I think it looks cool. Now, one of the changes you notice to the A05s coming from its predecessor or previous Samsung budget phones is that the display now has slimmer bezels and more of a U-notch style, which, while you could still complain about the competition using punch hole displays at this price point, still looks a lot better than previous ones using the Galaxy A14 as an example. But let's not get too forward. Let's start from the pricing, then what you get in the box, and then we'll go on from there. In Nigeria, the Galaxy A05s currently has a starting price of about 139,400 naira for the base version, which has 4 gigs of RAM and 64 gigs of internal storage. You also get storage options of 128 gig and RAM options up to 6 gig, but I could not find a 6 gig version in the market. What I have here is the one with 4 gigs of RAM and 128 gigs of storage, and this configuration costs 154,900 naira. You're not getting a charging brick with the A05s. Samsung has brought the no charger treatment even down to entry level. A major improvement we actually get here, which is commendable and you should say finally, is that this now gets 25 watts fast charging, including the A05. However, you need to buy that charger separately. Plus, you actually don't want to buy just about any fast charger. Samsung devices are actually selective and are particular about the charging brick that you use. It has to be one that has proper power delivery. That might cost you upwards of additional 10k in naira, so extra costs. The A05s is a fine looking device, and I like the design uniformity Samsung has adopted for all their devices. The finish on the rear is matte textured, much similar to what we had on the Galaxy A34. It is a 6.7 inches device, so it's quite a handful. These days you don't really get small size phones unless you are buying the flagships. Moving on, the display on the A05s actually looks pretty good for an IPS LCD. It has a display density of 393 pixels per inch, and it looks great. It gets 90Hz screen refresh rate, so you can expect smoother experience on the software. The A04s also had 90Hz if I remember correctly. This time, however, we're getting a 1080p display, so it looks sharp and it offers smoother scrolling. Now, I noticed that you don't have the option to toggle the refresh rate between 60 and 90. It's set at 90 and you don't even see the refresh rate option in the settings. So if you like dropping to 60Hz for longer battery life, you can't do that here. Maybe One UI 6 will bring that option. Speaking of software, the A05s comes with Android 13 and One UI 5.1. You'd expect Android 14, but that's not the case, and you can't really complain because there are actually no budget phones on Android 14 right now, and there's a good chance this will actually get Android 14 much sooner than most. It is a core version of One UI, so you are going to be lacking features like Edge Panel, Smart View, and the worst of all, screen recording. Samsung still deprives budget phones of such a core feature. You need to rely on third-party applications for screen recording. You also cannot use palm swipe to capture screenshots like other Samsung phones. On the bright side, it's still One UI and it offers one of the best software experiences you can get on budget phones. That is in terms of neatness and software support. In terms of smoothness, well, on the A05s, after I restart, it takes a while to fully get working, anywhere from 2 to 3 minutes. If you try to launch any apps or use the device within the first few minutes of just turning it on, you will experience significant lag. Now, you would expect Samsung to have sorted out these lags on the budget One UI devices, but that is not the case. When fully functional though, it actually works fine for the most part, but it's still not the smoothest software experience out there. I've seen better on lower priced devices. There's not much consistency in animation. Sometimes it's snappy, other times you notice some choppiness. You experience it occasionally when swiping home, launching or switching between apps. You also have similar experience on the Galaxy A14. It's actually worse there. I expected better from the device running on the Snapdragon 680, but it could just be a One One UI optimization problem. Either way, you can hardly complain knowing that this is really one of their entry-level devices. Bottom line is, manage your expectations. In the price category of the A04s, you have the likes of Infinix Hot 40, Redmi 13C, Technospark 20, I think Technospark 10 Pro, and I believe the ITEL P55 5G and P55 Plus. But among all of these mentioned devices, I think only the ITEL P55 5G has a processor you could say is better than the Snapdragon 680 that we have on the Galaxy A05s. We have the 6nm Snapdragon 680. If I'm correct, the same processor we found on the Galaxy A23. So it's a solid one and it's nice seeing it on an entry-level device. It's a good upgrade from the Exynos 850 on its predecessor, and one of the reasons I compared it to the Galaxy A14. Now in comparison with the Galaxy A14 4G, precisely the Exynos version which we got here in Nigeria, this offers better performance in terms of speed or efficiency. While it has the occasional lags expected on Samsung budget phones, it lags much less than the Galaxy A14 and it can handle more, especially on gaming. The only area I can see the A14 4G is better than this device will be in terms of cameras, where the A14 has overall better performance. If you'd like to see a proper comparison between these two, let me know, and if I get up to 15 comments requesting for it, I'll work on that video. The haptics on the Galaxy A05s is solid for an entry-level phone. Actually, I'd say it's much better than most budget phones out there. You find it convenient to operate. One thing the Galaxy A05s lacks is stereo speakers. It's actually not a common occurrence on budget devices, though it's just me nitpicking, probably because I saw it added on Technospark 20. So it's actually not a deal breaker. Ignore me. For its gaming performance, the A05s exceeded my expectations, and as I said before, better gaming than the A14 4G, so by extension, better than its predecessor. The Snapdragon 680 gives you gaming performance I'll say is good enough and actually much better for any entry-level phone. I tried a couple of games for over an hour of gaming and the device never got hot. Not that it stayed mostly cool, but never got to the level you'd actually call hot, so let's say warm. I was able to play Call of Duty Mobile at very high graphics and medium frame rate. To play at high frame rate, you have to drop the graphics to low. On PUBG Mobile, the most I could get was balanced graphics and medium frame rate. It says HD option is coming soon. The gameplay was okay on PUBG, but the graphics left much to be desired. But then again, you have to remember this is an entry-level phone and the fact that it can handle these games well is actually impressive. For its battery, we have a 5000 mAh battery, which I'd say lasts long for at least a day of use based on my experience, and the fact that it has 25 watts charging makes it easy to quickly top up in about an hour and a few minutes if you are fully drained. In the camera department, the A05s sports a triple setup with the 50 megapixel main camera, the only proper one. The other two are 2 megapixel depth and macro cameras, which I doubt anyone uses. It has a 13 megapixel selfie camera. One thing I noticed with the camera performance of the A05s is its shutter lag. It lags significantly to the point that when you hit the shutter button soon after taking a photo, it doesn't respond. Let me just show you live on camera as we're here. See, you see that? Didn't respond. Not so good. I tried it with the lower A05 and I didn't experience this level of shutter lag. Hopefully Samsung can fix this with a software update. You basically can't get a good shot with this if your subject is moving or you're walking. You have to actually be patient with it. With that said, the performance on this rear camera is actually good. The photos come out sharp with good colors and detail. You will get satisfying results as long as you stick to the proper lighting. It struggles greatly in low light. On the selfie camera, the results were initially disappointing, but then I figured it had some smoothing enabled. After disabling it, the results were much better. For videos, it can shoot up to 1080p 60 frames per second from both the selfie and rear cameras. I find the result decent except for the lack of stabilization, but then it's excusable for an entry-level phone. You just need stable lens or use a tripod for the best results. So if you choose to film with the Galaxy A05s, this is what you're going to get from the selfie camera. It's actually 13 megapixels and I'm currently shooting in 1080p 30 frames per second. I believe it has the ability to do 1080p 60, that's the maximum that is expected for this price point. And from the viewfinder, it actually looks okay. Looks sharp, I guess. Let me know what you think about its quality, the microphone quality. It actually has dual noise cancelling microphones, top and bottom. So the audio should be pretty decent. The video quality looks decent. From the rear cameras, can also shoot 1080p 60. But yeah, this is 1080p 30. The Galaxy A05s is a solid device comparable to the A14, a major upgrade from the A04s, decent all-round performance, although with the few One UI hiccups. As long as you keep your expectations low, it's a device you should be okay with. If you can, I recommend getting the 128GB version at the very least. You don't want to experience a budget Samsung device when the internal memory is filled, and 64GB can get filled pretty fast. That's all from me on the Galaxy A05s. If you want to see a video on the Redmi 13C, you can check here or here for any other video you might like.